There's what we say, and then there's what we don't. And often it's the unspoken that holds the most power. Welcome to the Unspoken Edge, a space where hidden dynamics, quiet tensions, and unacknowledged truths are named, held, and turned into grounded action. Today, I want to talk about the biggest barrier to successful outcomes and implementation, and that's communication. It's not vision. It's not personality. It's not even limited time and resources. Most communication problems are not personality problems, they're language problems. We need a shared language to be able to overcome inconsistent communication. Looping conversations. Looping conversations, those ones that happen over and over, maybe in a day or a year or 10 years. And to be able to cascade messages well and avoid chronic misalignment. Today's episode is especially for my visionaries, my integrators, and EOS implementers. As you input this framework into a business, let me give you some shared language, 3 simple tools you can use to create a shared people language that makes messages repeatable, scalable, and crystal clear. This is for you, for your partnerships, for your leadership team, and across the organization. These 3 tools, when implemented, will reduce drag across your entire organization. So, what am I talking about shared language? Shared language is a language around people that helps us shortcut and understand each other. Shared language equals shared meaning, which equals shared execution. Without shared definitions, we assume, we interpret, we react, we do not align. Healthy culture isn't just how we do things, it's how we talk about how we do things. Let me give you a real quick example. You have a meeting, you gather your leadership team, and you say, I want this project done. I want it in the books. I want it done by the end of the year. Depending on where that person is coming from, what the framework is that they're looking from, done can mean very different things. Done may mean just the bare minimum done. Done may mean I need it done with complete detail and in perfect order. Done may mean just this one part of it is done. Done can mean many different things. And if we don't have shared language, we end up looping and frustrated, and the rework can be endless. Shared language is not a soft skill. This is a strategic advantage. This is operational intelligence. So let me give you a framework. It's 3 pieces that create a framework. The first is internal state. This is a physiological state. The second is chunk size. Chunk size is how your brain is wired. This is the number 1 communication issue between visionaries and integrators. Okay. The third part is communication channels. Some of this will feel familiar, but I want to apply it in a new way. So the framework is internal state, chunk size, and communication channel. If you shift even one of these 3, you will change the entire communication experience. If you implement this framework, you will see a reduction in looping conversations of up to 80%. This clarifies things and can eliminate drag across your entire organization. Okay, so let's deep dive into each of these parts of the framework, each of these 3 tools. The first is internal states. As I mentioned, your internal state is physiological in nature, which means it impacts different systems in the body. It's a multi-system state. It's your respiration, it's your digestion, it's your cardiovascular, it's endocrine, the hormones running through your body. All of these things are online and create your internal state. I like to think of internal states as a simple red, yellow, green. Let's make it simple and actionable. Are you feeling red, overwhelmed underwater? Yellow, okay, but a little hustly? Or green? All systems are go and you feel ready and online and there to do your best work. Red, yellow, green. Intuitively, we know if we're feeling red, yellow, green. There are some blind spots. Sometimes we feel like we're in the yellow when really we're in the red. But normalizing conversation around red, yellow, green makes a huge difference. Let's deep dive a little bit more into these internal states. Red, when you're overwhelmed and underwater, what's actually happening is your body is in survival mode. It's fight, flight, freeze. And all the other states that we're realizing are us showing up in a survival state. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. Breathing is shallow. Heart rate is faster. Digestion may be upset. The thing with this red is you can't do enough of anything to keep you from being in the red at some point during the day. Not enough exercise, eating right, breathing is going to keep you out of the red. You will land in the red sometimes throughout the day. Yellow. Yellow is an emotional state. Yellow is when we're asking the question, am I loved and respected? Do I belong here? Do I matter? The yellow is why people spend money on workplace culture and employee engagement, because we know that if people feel loved and respected, if they feel like they belong, they're going to show up in the green and do their best work. In the yellow, we need to answer the question, am I loved and respected? In the green, all systems are go. Everything's aligned. Our breathing is deep. Our digestion is regulated. The hormones in our body are supportive to asking the question, what am I here to learn? What can I get curious about? Red, yellow, green. The fastest way to move from the red, am I safe? That's the question you're asking in the red. The fastest way to move from the red to the yellow is your breath. It's what's most accessible to all of us. 3 deep breaths deep into your belly will drop your shoulders and move your body into the yellow. You can't move from the red to the green. You have to go through the yellow. Once you're in the yellow, you then can check in with yourself. That's the fastest, most accessible way to move from the yellow to the green. What do I need right now? Do I need to just get up and go to the bathroom? Do I need to take a 5-minute break on this? Do I need to ask another question? I had a participant in a workshop one time. His mother was in surgery and he needed to give himself permission to have his phone upright so he could see if any calls come in. He felt like that was a rude thing to do, but if he had kept his phone in his bag, he would have been in the red and yellow and been unable to be present in class. So red, yellow, green. Once you even check in with yourself, you're bringing online things that put you into the green already. So that is our first tool. Taking a simple check-in into your L10 meeting with everybody and saying, are you red, yellow, green? Is a great way to start normalizing the reality that we're human beings and we're not always showing up in the green, no matter how much we want to. Plus, when you do this at your L10 meetings, you can then begin to notice over time who is always showing up in the red. Who has fluctuation? What data can you pull from checking in with people and see where they are? If somebody is showing up in the red consistently every meeting, there's something going on. And it may be bigger than work. It may be something outside of work. It may be something about the environment at work. Are they in the wrong seat? That's a big indicator of this person. Maybe, is this person in the right seat? So red, yellow, green, implementing that at your L10s. All right, second tool is chunk size. Remember I said this is how your brain is wired. Chunk size is how you were born. It is how you conceptualize information. And that is big chunk or small chunk. Big chunk are our visionaries. There are big picture people. They see the world through a telescope. They see the vastness of the sky. They see the whole picture, but they can't quite see all those details. Small chunk people are detail-oriented people. They see all the details. They're looking through a microscope. They see all the details and how they're connected together, but they can't get a grasp sometimes of the whole picture. This, like I said, is one of the number one communication issues we have, especially between visionaries and integrators. Visionaries see through a telescope. Integrators see through a microscope. And if we can just be aware and appreciate that difference, it can be wonderful for our communication. Lots of questions come up here. Our big chunk people are like, okay, yeah, I'm big chunk. Our small chunk people have lots of questions about this. Aren't there different chunk size? Can't I be both? Your brain is hardwired, big chunk or small chunk. Let's take this with internal states. When you are in the red, what do you need? When you're in the red, you either want to know everything's going to be okay and just give me a few words, or when you're in the red, you need a lot more detail. You have a lot of questions. You need to know at least the next step, or you need to know what we know and what we don't know. This is the way to know your true chunk size, is how you operate in the red. All of us in the green are way more flexible. Big chunk folks in the green have capacity for details. They have capacity for more than 7 words. Small chunk people in the green are able to distill things down and give the bullet points for big chunk people. But when we're not in the green, things can get hairy. We don't have capacity. We don't have the ability to adapt and be as flexible. Internal states, biological, physical way that humans are created. Chunk size, how our brains work. The third tool is communication channels. Communication channels, these may feel familiar if you've done any personality assessments or behavioral assessments. There's 4 quadrants, 4 different channels. I like to think of these channels as very situational, and they're a way to very quickly know what the priority is of the person that you're communicating to. Okay? 4 channels. The first is driver. Driver is a big chunk channel, and it wants to move from A to B as quickly as possible. As soon as a driver has their sight set on what B is, they are off and running and will most likely steamroll anything or anyone in the way of moving to B. There's an intensity with drivers that sometimes people read as anger when it's really passion. The most important thing, the priority of a driver, is results. If there's anything else important to a driver, it would just simply be more results. Very outcome focused. So when I'm interacting with a driver, they need to first know big picture, where are we going? Are we going to get there okay? The second channel is social. Social folks are also on a big chunk channel. But where drivers have big energy and it's very intensely focused, social folks have big energy, but it's dispersed. These are our people that walk into the room and they just fill it up. The party starters, but not the finishers. The idea putter-outers, but not the completers. These are the people that have to have an implementer to get things done. Social folks are driven by 2 priorities. One is fun, and the other is attention. If we can make our communication have this person understand that they are a critical part, then they will open up and listen. So drivers, thinkers. Drivers are a lot more formal. They have a lot of more formality and rigidity to them. Thinkers are a little bit looser, big chunk folks. On the small chunk end of the spectrum, we have lover. Lovers have a lower energy. They will talk slower and maybe even more quiet. They're going to use more words because they're small chunk. This is a small chunk channel. They may be close talkers. That's because they want to connect with you. Drivers may also be close talkers, but that's because they're trying to intimidate you into action. They're trying to get you to move. Lovers are close talkers because they want to connect. Lovers are driven by two things, and that is peace. They don't like conflict, and connection. Peace and connection. The fourth channel is thinker. Thinkers are also on the small chunk spectrum. They can be micro chunk. They can need a lot of information. So even though we have two buckets of big chunk and small chunk, there's some different capacity levels. There's some small chunk people that need a lot of detail, and small chunk people that need they need detail, but they don't need quite as much as others. Our thinkers need a lot of detail. When you ask a thinker a question, they may even pause and think about it for a minute. They're very deliberate in their responses because their priority is data and perfection. So they're going to pause so that they can get it right. They don't want to waste your time with something that's not perfected. So each of us have the thinkers and the lovers. The thinkers are a little more formal and rigid, like the drivers, and the lovers are a little more loosey-goose, informal, and fluid, like the social. Each of us can land on any of these channels at any time. It just depends on what the priority is in the moment. We have some natural tendencies, and we have some places we go when we're in the red. So you may have a leader that lives on the lover channel. They love connecting with their people. They love having teams connect with each other. They want to make sure everybody understands where everybody is and how everybody fits together. And then third quarter hits. We haven't hit our goals. We're behind in a number of KPI. And that leader moves to the red and is now in driver mode. Hasn't communicated anything about that. Everybody just feels the shift from green, leading from a lover channel, to red, leading from a driver channel. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? Is it us? Did we do something wrong? Is something, it sends everybody else into the red. And some of us in the red go from thinker to more thinker. So what happens if you have a leader in the red that's in driver, and then you have an employee in the red that's in thinker? The thinker is slowing down. The leader's like ramping up. And now our communication gap just gets more and more far apart. That's why starting with internal state is a great place to start, because all of us are more flexible in the green. And if we can normalize saying, okay, I'm in the red, I need a pause, I need to get at least to yellow, hopefully to green to have this conversation, it can change everything. So what do we do from here? Here is a shared language checklist for you. I want you to take this to your L10, to your leadership meeting. I want you to take this framework, and I want you to take this checklist of questions with you. First, have you attempted to regulate the internal state? Sometimes you can even take the agenda and get people, before you engage that topic, say, okay, give me red, yellow. How do you feel about this topic? Red, yellow, green. It's a great way to understand where you are. If everybody's red about a topic, we need to talk about getting to the green about the topic before we can actually talk about the topic. Slow down to go fast. If you take time to regulate internal state, you're going to be a lot more effective and efficient with your outcomes. Okay, second question on the checklist. Have you started with big chunk bullets and ended with small chunk detail? So when we're communicating, sometimes our tendency, now you can see different teams in your company may land on these different communication channels. A lot of times your finance team will be thinkers. Your customer service team will be lovers, and your sales team will be social. A lot of time that leadership team can seem like drivers, right? Because they're outcome focused. But when we communicate, everybody has different chunk sizes. And we have to communicate to the big chunk people first, because we will lose them if we start with detail. I see this all the time with customer service folks where they're engaged in difficult customer conversation, and that small chunk customer service person is just giving the customer who's in the red all this information, which is just keeping that customer in the red. Have we started with big chunk bullets in what we're communicating and ended in small chunk detail? The third checklist question: have you incorporated multiple priorities so each channel receives it? Remember the 4 different channels and their priorities. Have you addressed outcomes and what the outcome is we're headed for clearly? Have you made sure that the people know where they fit in the outcome? Giving them attention. They matter. They fit into the outcome in this place. Have you told them how everything connects together, how they connect to the purpose, and how different teams connect? And have you told them how to get it right? This is what it would look like for us to get this right. Incorporating those different priorities in your communication, make sure everybody can receive that message where they are, from where they are. And fourth, the fourth checklist piece is: how have you addressed your own internal state and your own chunk size, your own natural communication channels to ensure that you've diversified the message? If you have a leadership team that is in the red on driver mode and nobody says, time out, let's check in. Are we in the red? Have we looked at all these different channels? Have we considered chunk size? Odds are your message is not going to be well-rounded and received. One of the biggest struggles in the L10 is that last part, cascading the message. We say cascade the message, and then we send people out to share information in their own framework. And we haven't stopped to consider making this message receivable by the entire organization. This framework, these 3 tools, are short, they're simple, and they're repeatable in relationship with each other, between a visionary and an integrator, with an EOS implementer and their clients, and leadership teams, organization. This is a framework that is so simple to implement and will make huge waves. Shared language is the backbone of trust. It creates clarity and it makes execution so smooth. It is not soft skill. It's operational intelligence, and shared language is a structural skill that reduces drag across the entire organization. So my invitation to you is to share this podcast with your leadership team. Take this checklist to your next L10. Share this with visionary integrator duos. Use this to decrease drag across your organization and increase trust exponentially.